Welcome back, folks. Earlier in the program, we talked with Howard Buffett and saw the work he's doing getting equipment over to Ukraine. But Max, that's not all his foundation is involved in, is it?
Oh, he's been sending equipment and dogs to try to find some of the mines that have been left over there. He's providing so much assistance to farmers. But one area that he's looking at is a very interesting one. Is it the possibility that they could track down and hold accountable for war crimes some of those who have come down and dismantled Ukraine's agriculture industry?
One of the more interesting things we're doing is we immediately reached out to a woman we knew that had worked in The Hague with war crimes previous to this war, and said we'd like to be able to provide her funding so that she could support the Ukraine government in their effort. And so she got started on that, and then she came back to us and said, look, there's a lot of activity around war crimes and documentation. What if we document the impact on agriculture in terms of how it would fit in the category of war crimes?
Really?
And I had never would have thought of that. And I said, absolutely, that we should be doing that. So she's documenting the theft of grain, the destruction of grain infrastructure, the stolen tractors and combines from farmers, all of the impact that this Russian war has had in terms of however it affects farming and agriculture. She's documenting, and she'll document the amount of damage to farmland, which is significant with these bombs that have been dropped into all across the area, the farmers that have been killed, the damage, and I'll tell you what, the farmers will find this story pretty interesting. So we met with a gentleman who is involved in a grain company, but he's also a farmer. He farms about 1,000 or 1,500 acres. He was telling us a story. He's about 2 hours south or southeast, something like that, of Kyiv. He was telling us a story of how he was on the farm, and as the Russian occupation started, they came up through that area and they set a command post up on his farm. They started butchering his animals to eat. They started amassing ammunition. They started bringing in some artillery. And when there was just this, he could see he's already lost his farm. So he got away from the farm and called the coordinates into the Ukraine military and said, you got to bomb my farm. Can you imagine doing that? I can't imagine calling the United States military and saying, here's the coordinates of where I'm sitting. Here's my combine, my tractor, my animals, bomb it. But he did it because he knew the importance of it in terms of the war. And that is not an isolated example. I know another individual who did the same thing that we read about originally and then communicated with. So the loss, and he said to us, he says, I have no insurance on the tractors. I have no way to replace my animals. But he said, this is what it was going to take for us to win this war. And so the commitment of the people, but especially the farmers. These farmers are still out there in fields, in some places risking their life trying to get a crop out. And I've seen many pictures, where somebody's cutting wheat and they come up on this unexplored ordnance. And of course, they laid many landmines as they retreated. So this is going to be a long, long haul.
One thing when you visit with Howard Buffett, as I've learned through some 3 decades that I've known him, is passion for the cause, whatever it may be, and especially in the area of agriculture, always shows through. Our special thanks to RFD TV and President of Rural Media Group, Patrick Gotch, for making that opportunity available to us and making it available to the audience. It'll be playing a few times through the rest of October on RFD TV.
Definitely worth watching. Eye-opening to that situation happening on the ground in Ukraine.
It is. Thanks for being with us here. We'll see you next week. So long. Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Kubota. Shape your world. This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Case IH. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by Omax Communication in association with 22 Creative Group. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.